Hello, this is Father Louis SCURTI with part two of an interview with a very interesting young man, Andy SAYLES, an attorney in Roseland, New Jersey, and a friend from 10 years ago, and he still is a friend. He and Amanda have two boys, and we're going to talk about his journey. The last segment dealt with your journey of faith, meeting Amanda, baptism, confirmation, and of course baptizing the boys. And now you're living locally and part of a parish, which is great. Tell me, how does being an attorney affect your faith, or faith affect your legal profession?
It always plays a role to me. I have distinct memories being in school, and I remember going to one of the masses at Syracuse, and it was a red mass. And
Oh, right.
I remember being open to this. Wait, there's a mass that's... And I know it's for politicians, but it also...
But explain to the audience what a red mass is.
And my understanding is, and Father, I'm sure you'll let me know if I'm wrong, it was a mass usually given in October, November, right at the beginning of the year, right before, and it's usually in honor of politicians, statement, and attorneys have been grouped in with that usually. And for example, down here, I think Seton Hall has a red mass.
Yes, because they have a law school.
Yes, and so I remember... I think I was either going into law school or just started law school at the time.
Right.
No, it would have been before going in, and I remember the priest was explaining the red mass, and I had also just been reading more about Thomas More at the time.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Right, he's the patron.
Yeah, and it kind of always it really sparked it. I knew I wanted to go to law school at the time, but it's God, this is something I can feel, and I just followed it more. And it was about principle, about how the two can interact, and and even to this day, the laws. That exist. I follow them for what I do. I interpret. I apply them. But then there's kind of a parallel with the church. There's an equal set of laws that kind of guide the way everybody acts. And I don't know if there's an articulate way to describe it, but there's a parallel that I always sense with it. And
I think the most famous saying I remember from Thomas More was that I'm going to paraphrase, he'll serve his monarch, but his church first.
Yeah.
So basically, it's that issue of church and state, our political views and our spiritual views, our church views, So coming together in a Catholic attorney is quite a challenge.
Yeah, and I always remember at that, and I think it was from the play they did on him,
Man of All Seasons. Yes.
There's a part where he talks about how, he says, society is like a big force, but if, the laws and, God's created this force that we live in, but, the trees themselves are part of the laws. If we wipe out the laws and we don't have anything to live with, we're going to lose ourselves. And there was a way that he was trying to navigate how he had a king that wanted him to say one thing. He said, I'm not going to say it, I'm not going to disavow it, but don't make me take this extra step that I can't do. And the way he dealt with it, he refused to do it. He had principles he stuck by. I don't know. It spoke to me at the time, and it's always resonated with me. And every year when I hear the red mass come up, and
so had you seen that prior to becoming an attorney?
No, I hadn't. It was just one of those happenstance. I remember I was taking it was either a philosophy of law course for undergrad, and one of the books that we were studying was A Man of All Seasons, and read up more about Thomas More. And to be honest, I don't think I'd really known of him or heard of him before then. And it's about there's an attorney who's a saint now, and it was and I think a lot of attorneys. It's not novel. I know in law school we had a St. Thomas More Society that I was part of.
Right. And, I think he was chancellor under his king.
Yeah. So it was. Everyone needs something to kind of follow and model themselves after to some degree. So it definitely played into it.
Is Syracuse Catholic?
No, it's not. It's non-denominational.
But you got this from...
Yeah, there was a Franciscan run chapel or parish on the campus.
Oh, okay.
So it's just they had a Catholic center. They also had a non-denominational chapel, but the Catholic group up here had their own little chapels that they used. So.
That's great. And I think that's William Patterson's issue was too. I mean, there was a state school, but we were there invited to be the Catholic segment there.
Yeah, the Catholic church was right next to the Hillel house, and everyone's mixed in. It's
that's good. That's appropriate. It's respectful too. Tell me what you do at the firm. You're a litigator, you said before.
Yeah, I'm a partner with Connell Foley. I'm on the litigation side of the firm. So we do a lot of different areas of law, but some's transactional, some is employment or immigration, things like that. But I'm on the litigation side, so I'm in court a lot. Depositions, trying cases, that type of thing.
Without being specific, can you give me an example of a kind of case? Obviously, no names and all that.
Yeah,
good
sure.
stuff.
No, I do some class action work. I help defend firms in class actions
Oh.
or companies. I defend professionals, lawyers, architects, engineers, doctors when they're sued. I'm usually on the defense side of it.
Wow.
Some construction work, I'll help out in contract disputes when, usually by the point people have reached or stopped being nice to one another is usually when I get involved. But I also on the front.
And I hate to say, I mean, I don't hate to say it, but and you are a nice guy. Before the show, I was we were setting up, and Ariel and Bill are here doing all the mechanical things. I don't get involved with that, but I do have a bit of a sharp tongue, I think. So then Andy comes in, and I said, Andy has never seen me rude, so I can't be rude in front of Andy because I think
You
you're
don't
so.
wanna
I mean, I don't. It sounds goofy, but you're such a nice person. Are you always this way?
I think so. I'm pretty even keeled.
Yeah,
That's why I
yeah.
like
And
looking at
since I know you, you've always been this way.
And believe me, I've met my fair share of hotheads, and especially in the law, you see a lot of people who,
Or egotists.
yeah, definitely. There's a lot of people who think very highly of themselves.
Yeah.
But look, I found one thing about New Jersey. It's a lot of people here, but it's a small community of attorneys still.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I
Right.
practice in New York as well, and it's in my personal experience, it's night and day between going to court in Bergen County or Hudson County versus going into Manhattan or Kings County or Queens County.
Oh, really?
And maybe it's just the volume, but it's still a packed area. But the people, it's a small enough community where there's accountability, where people still kind of have principles, and they live by a certain way. They
Here
want
in
to follow.
Jersey.
Yeah,
Great. That's good to know.
I'm involved in other groups. There's an Inn of Court that I'm involved with. It's a group.
What's it called?
It's called an Inn of Court.
Inn of Court.
And it's based on it follows an English model, and the idea is they want people of all ages and experience. So there's judges, there's attorneys who've been practicing for 50 years, there's people in the middle like myself, then there's people who've just been admitted only a year or two. And we get together once a month and we talk about issues, the case law or what happened in court, or we try to teach some of the younger attorneys things.
So it's like social,
It's a social and professional gathering. It's and it's people from both sides. It's plaintiffs, defense, people who do all different
Okay,
things. And the idea
interesting.
is let's see each other as peers and colleagues, and
And
we all have
respect,
clients that we
yeah.
have to advocate for, but there's a way to do it right, a way to do it without getting in the dirt.
And what's that group called?
It's called an Inn of Court. It's
Inn
called the
of
Brennan.
Court.
The one I'm involved in is the Brennan Vanderbilt Inn of Court, and it's
Okay.
based on two more established judges and jurists
Great.
that worked in New Jersey. I'm still learning about the New Jersey legal history myself, so I've only
Okay.
been here for 10 years, but I've realized it's a
Only 10 years.
well, just recently, Brennan Byrne passed away.
Yes.
The governor, and he was a well-respected
Wonderful.
attorney.
And environmentalist and
Yeah.
wonderful
So
person.
there's a lot of great people you can follow and shadow yourselves after. So
That's great. Any cases ever come across your desk that conflict with your faith?
I don't know if I've ever had a crisis of faith, but you do have, look, from time to time you have a client that might not have, acted in a way you would have preferred. And, I usually look at it, by the time I'm involved, I'm trying to, provide the best defense for a client that I have or help them out of their
Okay.
situation. So I try not to pass judgment on the acts of the client, but, I'm bound by rules of professional conduct as well. So there are
Sure.
circumstances where, if I have a problem with the position a client's taking, for example, I can't allow a client to present a lie to the court. If I know a client's knowingly lying to a court, I have an obligation to prevent it or withdraw from the case if I can.
Oh,
So
good.
that's kind of an example of that, parallel course. You've got, what God tells us, what the Bible teaches us,
Right.
and you have to act accordingly. But then I've got a separate set of guidelines that completely different, not nearly as significant, but also binding. They say here's how you have to act, and you have a duty that exists beyond simply representing a client.
And withdrawing would be like the ultimate response if a person is lying to the
Yeah,
court.
certainly. Fortunately, I've never had to
Oh,
take
good,
that step,
good,
but
good.
it's a risk that arises, and I defend a lot of attorneys as well in malpractice suits. So I've seen attorneys get into trouble over issues, and a lot of times you can just take a bad client and could put you in a very bad position down the road. Because once
Right.
you represent and appear on behalf of that client, you can't just decide willy-nilly I'm not going to help them anymore. You're on record. You have a duty to the courts, to that client. So you're putting your name, your reputation,
Right.
your professional skills at risk for it.
Excellent. What do you see as one of the situations excuse me, in which the church should be more aware or should stay away from legal issues?
It's hard. I always run into without getting into politics, there's a lot of issues that come up, like immigration. You hear the church has one view on immigration, whereas the laws sometimes somehow are interpreted other ways. And I'm always one to say the more opinions, the better, because there's a process, there's a legislative process, and if everyone took the same position all the time, you'd never have this balance, and that's kind of where we reach it. So I don't want to say necessarily that they should meddle in certain affairs, but there's no problem expressing a view, especially when things are unsettled and there's a dispute, and it guides a lot of people, judges, juries, they should hear all the different views on it. So it's hard to say, though. In my typical cases, I don't usually encounter those type of issues.
Good.
I was involved in one case a couple years ago where I think the party on the other side was an undocumented immigrant, and it was right around the time of the last election, and I think it influenced how that party wanted to proceed with the case, because before, in the prior administration, they weren't too worried about going into court because there wasn't any threat. But now with the change of administration and all these words, if you're undocumented, we're looking for you, things like that, I think it might have influenced how that case went. So it's an example of where politics and issues could come into play. But I don't know, it's a touchy subject. But I always look at it on a case by case basis, and assess what I have for my clients.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to stop for now, and we're going to pick up another piece. I want to know more about your firm in the future segment. Okay, because you said most of the guys and men and women are Catholic.
Yeah, we have and we can fill in more. There's a presence for it. So
that's good. This has been Father Louis SCURTI. I hope you find these interesting. I mean, I think it's fascinating to listen to an attorney with his insights. And this is Andy Sayles, my guest today. And he is an attorney with Connell Foley in Livingston, New Jersey. And I'm Father Louis SCURTI, and I want to hear from you, fatherlouisscurti@hotmail.com. Thank you, and tune in for the next episode. God bless you.